Syph here. Welcome to another episode of Silicon and Steel. Today, we're reviewing a knife that I like enough to not own one of, nor two of, but three of. The Cold Steel Bushman. I first got a hold of one of these knives when I bought one as a gift for a friend and saw how absolutely amazing they are. Now I have three of them, use them all the time, and have modified them in numerous ways, including making a spear out of one of them. So, let's talk about them. The Cold Steel Bushman is a 12¼ inch long knife with a 7-inch blade. It's made of SK5 high carbon steel, weighs 9.8 ounces, and has a blade thickness of 2.5 millimeters. To describe this knife in a few words, it's surprisingly big, and Cold Steel ships these with what's called a Core X survival sheath for just $37. Before diving into the application of this knife, let's get technical and talk about the steel here. SK5 is a Japanese steel similar to American 1080 high carbon steel. As a high carbon steel, it has between 0.75 and 0.85% carbon and between 0.6 and 0.9% manganese. When quenched properly, SK5 is a remarkably hard mixture of martensite steel and small undissolved carbides, meaning that it's tough and holds an edge well. As we can see, holds an edge very well. In my experience with this knife and Cold Steel, I can vouch for the fact that they do a great job of ensuring that their SK5 blades have the expectantly tough temper expected of this material. Looking at some other Cold Steel SK5 blades, like this guy here, the Cold Steel Trailmaster, and this monster, the Cold Steel Gurkha Kukri, both made out of SK5, I would say that the Bushman is in good company. Okay, so how can we use the Bushman? It's often called a survival blade, and in many respects I agree with that. Considering how flat the blade is, it wouldn't be my first choice for batoning firewood, but it's hard enough that it would probably work. However, this huge blade is nonetheless incredibly versatile. It's sharp and wieldy enough that you can do fine detail work with it, but large and weighty enough that you can really hack at something with it. For example, I've made a bit of a machete out of this one by lodging a portion of a pool cue into the hollow handle for increased leverage and weight, and beat the hell out of it, and it never quit. I'm talking bind clearing, cutting down bamboo, never quit. So it'll perform when you need it to. The sheath, on the other hand, is pretty awful. Not only is it way too big, but it looks funny. It doesn't appear incredibly well made. The cloth it's made out of doesn't look like it would hold much water if you got it wet, which is good, but it's no Kydex sheath. Cold Steel vastly improved on the Bushman sheath this year, and the new ones even include a flint for fire starting, as you can see in the catalog up here. So it's more of a plasticky sheath. I would say that's a huge improvement. Doesn't do me much good because I already own these, so I'm actually hoping that they sell the sheath separately so I can replace these ones. In terms of modifying the knife, the sky's the limit. I already introduced this one right here and explained that by adding just a few inches and a few ounces to it really extended the capacity of this knife as a hacking tool. I mentioned that the pole is part of a pool cue. Well, here's the importance of that. Right here, got the base of the pool cue. Interestingly, screws in and extends the handle quite a bit. Haven't really found a use for this, but it worked too perfectly to not do, so here it is. You probably also noticed the wrapping on the first Bushman I introduced. Although it's a great feature, these knives don't come stock with the handle wrapped. They just come plain like this one right here. This knife, however, because of its hollow handle and the way that it's cold forged right here, lends itself perfectly to a paracord wrapped handle, which is perfect because having this 550-pound paracord on your knife adds to its utility as a survival tool. I'll make and upload a video demonstrating how to wrap these handles soon, so if you're interested, check soon for a link in the video description below for that. Lastly, but certainly not least, you can modify the Bushman to make a spear. Can't all fit into view, but I assure you, this is a 6-foot long Bushman spear I made by attaching a Bushman knife and wrapping the handle so that it fit on perfectly to the oak staff. Even if you get a Bushman and you want to try a spear and won't keep it that way, I would recommend making a spear with a Bushman and playing around with it. This knife is tough enough to use as a spearhead without worrying about it breaking, and this thing is fun to throw and cut around with. I've talked to people who won't do this because they think the knife will break. Nonsense. I made this spear, stabbed it through a phone book and into the floor beneath it, and the point of the knife didn't even dull. In conclusion, this is an amazing and affordable piece of steel. Sometimes Cold Steel will sell these on their website at a hugely discounted price, but otherwise you can pick them up for well below retail at other sites. I'll include links to other information and to places you can pick one up in my description below. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you're so inclined, please subscribe, leave comments. Feedback is always welcome, and of course questions are welcome as well. Until next episode, Syph signing off. Stay sharp.